Hey guys, Danny here from Horror Dads, and yesterday I finally got to the theater to see Old from M. Night Shyamalan, his newest film, which was made last year during the pandemic. And the obvious question whenever you come at an M. Night Shyamalan film is, what side of the M. Night Shyamalan spectrum is it going to land on? Is it going to land on the highest of highs, Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, The Visit, Split, and where you recognize him as this visionary writer-director of thriller horror, or is it going to land on the lowest of the low end of the spectrum with The Last Airbender, and After Earth, and The Village, and The Happening, which most people think of as more of a unintentional comedy than a suspense horror film. I didn't mention Lady in the Water because that movie I only saw one time, and I was firmly in the middle. And what I want to just say before I get into the review of this movie is, when it comes to Shyamalan, I do genuinely like him and respect him because he takes really big chances. And especially in the horror genre, but just in movies, I would rather people swing and miss, take big giant swings and miss, than play it safe. And Shyamalan, I don't think you can ever accuse him of playing it safe. I know he gets pigeonholed because of his surprise twist endings, and I know that early in his career, especially after The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, that's kind of why people only went to the theater. Like, oh, we got to see what the crazy twist ending here is going to be. But if you go back and watch those early films, they're more than just twist endings. They're great films. He actually got great acting performances from Bruce Willis, and you can't get good acting performances from Bruce Willis anymore. So, I tend to be on the pro-Shyamalan side of the coin, while I do recognize that he has swung and missed a lot in his career. Old, I feel like, is probably the film that I would put somewhere, and this might feel like a cheap answer, but I feel like it is hopefully in the middle of that spectrum. At points in this movie, I thought it was very scary. There were some thrilling moments in it. There was a lot of tension. But there were also parts of the movie where I kind of was rolling my eyes a little bit. There's a lot of dialogue in this movie that feels incredibly stilted and forced. When Shyamalan is at his worst as a screenwriter, you feel that the dialogue just doesn't match with how a normal human being would say lines. And I think that's never been more apparent than in The Happening, where you have the famous Mark Wahlberg, what? No! You know, all these terrible line reads in that movie, which in the theater, people were laughing at. Whereas in The Sixth Sense, there's dialogue where, even though it's dealing with ghosts and the dead, people were crying in the theater. And there are moments of great tension in that film. Old kind of hits again right in the middle for me. Let's bring up for a second. This movie was actually based on a graphic novel called Sandcastle, from Frederick Peters and Pierre Oscar Levy. This is only the second time, I believe, that he's ever made a film based on other previously written material. The last one was The Last Airbender, so did better than The Last Airbender, so put that right out there. But this was not an original Shyamalan idea. It is based on a graphic novel. And I do kind of want to read the graphic novel now, because I do think there's a lot of interesting ideas in this film. Let's talk about the cast. The cast is really good. Like, there's good actors in this cast. Now, Some of them do very well. Some of them, again, I think because of the dialogue they're reciting, don't really come across too well, and it's not their fault. The main family in this film are Guy and Prisha, and they're played by Gael Garcia Bernal and Vicky Krieps. I hope that's how you pronounce her name. She was amazing in Phantom Thread by Paul Thomas Anderson, starring Daniel Day-Lewis. She was fantastic in that movie. And they are both very good in this movie. Also good in this movie is Rufus Sewell. You probably know him from things like A Knight's Tale and Dark City, one of my favorite science fiction films. He kind of walks the line between wonky dialogue, but he does his character. He plays his character pretty well. Rufus Sewell plays Charles. He basically has a trophy wife named Crystal, played by Abby Lee, who you might remember from Lovecraft Country. And they have a young daughter. Guy and Prisha, they have 2 kids. Maddox, who is 11 at the beginning of the film, and a son named Trent. Trent? I think his name is Trent, yes. Who is about 6. And they're quirky kids, and I kind of like them, and they become kind of the central characters as the movie progresses. When they get to this beach, to this, the beach where the whole movie, and if you've seen the trailer, you know where the movie takes place, they're joined by another couple, the Ken Leung, who has been in a million things. He plays a character named Jaren, and for me, he was the one where his dialogue felt so forced and kind of ridiculous and very eye-rolling. And again, I don't blame Ken Leung for this. I think he's a great actor. I just think that very happening-esque dialogue for him, his character. So, there's also, there's a rapper. There's a guy on the beach already, played by Aaron Pierre, whose rap name is, and I'm not making this up, Mid-Sized Sedan. That is the worst rap name I've ever heard. Why not just name him, Station Wagon or Minivan? Mid-Sized Sedan? I mean, who's going to a rap concert from Mid-Sized Sedan? But anyway, Aaron Pierre, who plays this character, he is very good, and I would have liked some more from him in this movie, because I was really intrigued by his character. You know the plot if you've seen the trailer. As I said, a bunch of characters, they go to this resort, they take a van ride to this secluded beach. The van driver is M. Night Shyamalan, because he cameos in all of his films, not as subtly as Hitchcock used to, or as in your face as Tarantino occasionally, but he does cameo in all of his films. And obviously, once on this beach, everyone starts to age very, very quickly. This goes for the kids a lot more than the adults. The adults start to age a little bit slower, whereas the kids go from 6 and 11. Maddox and Trent go from like 6 and 11 up to like 11 and 16 pretty quickly. Charles and Crystal's daughter goes from being like 5 or 6 up to 10. And the actors eventually who we get for Maddox and Trent are great actors. Thomasin McKenzie has been one of my favorite young actresses for the last few years. Jojo Rabbit, she was fantastic. Probably could have gotten an Oscar nomination in that film. She was wonderful in that movie. And Alex Wolff, who I just saw in what is probably my favorite film of the year so far, Pig, with Nicolas Cage, and who, of course, is the son from Hereditary. And let me tell you something about Alex Wolff. I want this kid to get cast in, and I'm calling him a kid. He's 23. He's going to be 24 later this year. I want this young man to be cast in a romantic comedy, because I just feel bad for him at this point. Between all of these movies, he goes through so much family trauma and horrible events. I just want him to have Alex, get yourself cast in a romantic comedy. I think that would be great for you, just to take a load off. Because, between this and Pig and Hereditary, there's a lot of deep, dark stuff that this young actor is forced to deal with. So yeah, they're on the beach. They can't go out the way that they came in. There's some kind of force that is blocking them. I don't want to spoil too much. You know that they start to age. You've seen in the trailers, the kids get older. Obviously, Rufus Sewell is a little bit of an older man compared to his trophy wife, Abby Lee. So he starts to get older. Abby Lee starts to, imagine a trophy wife, rapidly aging, doesn't really handle it too well. What they do start to notice is that several of the people on the beach have severe medical conditions. There's a character who has epilepsy. There's a character with a blood disease. Prisha, the mom of Maddox and Trent, she has a mass, a tumor growing, a cancerous tumor inside of her. That is growing as well. It's aging. So that becomes a plot point, which is very interesting. The movie does try to say some things. It's an M. Night Shyamalan movie, so he does have messages in there. There's a message about racism, which kind of feels a little forced. There's a message about obviously enjoying what you have because life moves pretty fast. Quote Ferris Bueller. At the end, though, because it's a Shyamalan movie, even though I like Shyamalan, I did find myself, as the beach scene is dragging on, I did kind of start to feel myself just kind of saying, all right, let's get to the twist. We know it's coming. We know there's some explanation here. And I really wasn't sitting there patiently thinking, oh, I can't wait to see what happens next. I did get to a point where I was like, all right, somebody's got to get off this beach. We need an explanation. We know we're going to get the big final act reveal. Let's just get to it already. And again, I'm not going to spoil it, but we do get the Shyamalan twist ending, or not even so much a twist, but we do get the explanation part of it, which I guess serves as the twist. And the question is that a good twist? Is it a good ending to this movie? And I don't know. I really don't know. I kind of felt at the end like, okay. When the movie ended, I just kind of got up and left, and I wanted to do this video last night, and I guess it's telling that I wasn't particularly motivated to do this video last night. So I slept on it, and at the end of the day, my recommendation for this movie for you is very simply find your place on the Shyamalan spectrum. From The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable to The Happening and The Last Airbender. And for me, Old is in that Lady in the Water, Glass kind of middle zone where there's a lot of good ideas, there's some fun stuff in there, there's some good moments, but overall the movie kind of left you feeling like, and you just kind of felt like I said at the beginning, that he took a big swing and a miss. And again, I don't hate that about him. And I will probably go see his next movie again. But if I'm rating this movie 1 to 5, for me, this is probably a 2.5 star, maybe 2 to 2.5 star movie. I do think it's worth seeing if for nothing else, there are good ideas there. And I'll be honest, I do think that I'm going to try to find a copy of Sandcastle, which is the graphic novel that this was based on. It falls in the horror genre. It was in the theaters. I'm glad I saw it. But you know yourself on the Shyamalan spectrum, and if you're not a Shyamalan fan, then I would avoid this movie like the plague. I've read and I've seen some really negative reviews of this. I've also seen some positive reviews from people who liked it a lot more than me. So that's what I mean. Like, this movie does feel like it is falling right in the middle of the Shyamalan spectrum. So take that for what it is. I thought most of the performances here were pretty good. Gael Garcia Bernal, Vicky Krieps, Rufus Sewell, Alex Wolff, and Thomasin McKenzie all do very good work. The script does make your eyes roll a little bit. The ending is not his best, but I kind of just fall in the middle on this one. So that's it. That's Old. I hope that you didn't age tremendously watching me talk about the film. Pete and I are going to be getting together with our daughters to talk about Stranger Things Season 1 coming up next weekend, I believe. I'm going to be sitting with Charlotte and talking about Army of Darkness and ranking the original Evil Dead trilogy. That's going to be coming up very soon. And the Horror Dads have a lot more coming up as we inch closer to spooky season. Talk to you very soon.